Welcome, everyone, to the Beyond the Blueprint podcast. My name is Jamie Burdish. I am the marketing coordinator for the Staenberg Group, and I'm alongside the man behind it all, Michael Staenberg. Michael, thanks for joining me.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you.
So today we are going to this is the first episode of our little mini-series in regards to downtown Chesterfield. This is more of a visionary episode. So I want to start with taking a step back and hearing a little bit about where it all started. So if people didn't know, the downtown Chesterfield site is where the Chesterfield Mall used to be. So take me back. Where were you when you first thought this could be something extraordinary at the site?
Well, it starts in 1993. Then July 10th or 11th of 1993, there was a little flood in the Chesterfield Valley. And at that time, the only retail in the Chesterfield was, they had a Deerbrook store and the mall. And I looked at the flood, and I'll never forget sitting on the bridge, on the Parkway Bridge that overlooks the valley. My father-in-law says, "This is really a shame." You know, it was 18, 20 feet underwater. And I said, it can take lemons and make lemonade. And so I had been working with Walmart for 20 years. No, that's too long. 15 years at that point, and was representing them. And I had gone to Lou Sachs, and I tried to put him by the mall. And Lou said, "I always want to make this a downtown project. Walmart doesn't fit." So the flood happened, and I called Lou Sachs, and I said, "Well, if you want to help, maybe you can help me figure out how to make this happen in the valley." And that was the start. So in 1994, I appeared before the city council, and it took 5 years of working with the city because I had to work with MoDOT, the Corps of Army Engineers, the airport, the county, build an interchange to make that happen. So when I did that, that was the start of downtown. And Lou Sachs was always a visionary, but he never could quite get the downtown thought of. And I respected him. I knew his son well. And so one of the reasons, and I'll talk about it, is we named it DTC, Downtown Chesterfield, in honor of Lou Sachs, because he wanted to have a downtown. So I call this the third leg of the St. Louis region downtown. You have downtown St. Louis, you have downtown Clayton, and now you have downtown Chesterfield. Mm-hmm. So going back to that, I built the Chesterfield Commons, and it's 2 million square feet, 400 acres. It's 2 miles long from one end to the other end, both sides of the street. And that really, the mall never thought it would affect them. We do $1 billion today out of Chesterfield Commons. And that was the end of the mall. And also, you know, retail commerce has changed since then. And so in the last 20, 25 years, it's changed. So that was really kind of the linchpin. Mm-hmm. So let's see, in 2012, a group called the Taubman Group called me and said, "You know, we'd like to build an outlet center across the street from you, but we need to get into an easement for the sewer, and we need to have an access point to the interchange." And I said, "You know, Billy and Bobby, I'd be happy to give it to you." And I gave them 4 things that they couldn't do different, and they agreed. And then another developer tried to get me to change my mind, and I didn't. And they opened it. And unfortunately, there was 2 outlet centers built at the same time, and the Taubmans didn't have the expertise compared to the other group to make this happen. And the other group was still there. The Simon Outlet Center won. So in 2018, I'm sitting at the ICSC, the International Council of Shopping Centers, and my friends Billy and Bobby Taubman say to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "What are you boys doing here?" "Well, we want you to buy the outlet center." And I had no idea what to do with it. I had just no idea. And I came up with this crazy idea to create a district. And the reason I called it, I like to keep things simple, like downtown Chesterfield, the Commons, the district, the hub, the factory. And so I said, okay. So I came up with this crazy idea I'd build a music venue. And everybody said, "That's the dumbest effing thing you've ever said to us." I said, "Well, I think I can make it work." And so I got that, I got Main Event, I got a whole bunch of other things, and started a district of entertainment, of retail, of food, and things like that. And the reason I bring that up is so we opened it in 2020. Of course, when COVID was at its highest point, which really didn't do well for me, but or anybody. And so I said to Tim Lowe, the mall is going into bankruptcy. Sears closed, one of the first stores that Sears closed. I said, Tim, we have to get a leg in this game because I don't want someone to buy the mall and do a competition to the Commons or the district to compete with us. So we flew down to Florida, met with Eddie Lampert and his people, and bought the Sears store because Tim was the developer of the AMC, who's worked with me for about 18 years now. And he said, once you have a seat at the table, nobody can do anything without you. So then we've got the Sears store, we got the mall, which took a while to get because someone else bought the mall. And then we were able to convince Macy's to leave and made a deal with Dillard's. So this kind of evolved in the last 7 or 8 years. It wasn't like I was planning on buying them all and had this great vision. Mm-hmm. It just kind of evolved. And so now I sat down and said, what do we want to do? No different than the district. I thought, okay, we can build a music venue. Or I could build a hub area that, has a gathering place for restaurants and people. So I said, okay. So I flew around the country like I do a lot of times, no different than the music venue, and looked at 20 different, quote, mixed use developments. And I said, I don't want a mixed use. I want a downtown. And the closest I saw was in Austin, Texas, the Domain. It reminded me of a downtown. Cherry Creek in Denver reminds me of a downtown. So in Atlanta, there's a place that reminds me of a downtown. So I started looking around and I noticed there was one thing missing from all these. How do you create a gathering place? How do you create a community? How do you create, they talk about walkability, bikeability, enjoyment. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a park in the middle. If you remember, a lot of the small town communities that had downtowns always had a square. That's what that park is. So then I said to myself, okay, and I mentioned earlier why I called it Downtown Chesterfield in honor of Lou Sachs, because I remember what a visionary he was. He just didn't live long enough to see it come to fruition because he made the deal with the mall, and the mall really wasn't the downtown. So we put a park in the middle, and that's how this all started. Mm-hmm. It's been I've been working on it since 2018. I guess it's 8 years now. I still have another 5 to 10 years to go. And I'm proud of where we're going. I'm proud of the vision. And, everybody I run into, in fact, this morning, I met someone who says, I grew up in that mall. I can't believe what you're doing. So, so it's changing the landscaping. So that's really how it started.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate that answer. And I think that what a lot of people ask, kind of like what you're saying is, why are you breaking something down to start something new? Can you explain to people who have questions about this development, similar to like what you were doing with the district and when people question things that you're doing, how is this development different from anything else? And what is it going to do to fill, quote unquote, fill the gap for Chesterfield? Why is it so important?
Well, first of all, Chesterfield has plenty of retail, and we're not short of retail. I'm glad Dillard's is staying because we do need a department store. Mm-hmm. And I do believe Dillard's is a good department store. It's the last of the Mohicans, as they say. And what I'm trying to do is create something that's good for the region. Not only are we doing our development of 110 acres, but we're also helping the amphitheater across the street. We're also helping the park across the street. We're also helping the JCC, the YMCA, the library, and there's 2 lakes of acres. They're about a mile around each lake. I think they're a couple acres each for walking trails. We connected the bike trails so you can get down to the levee easily. And this is a regional downtown. This isn't just a small area that we're going to call downtown, but it's a whole region, the Wild Horse area and the other areas. And that's really what I'm trying to create. There's nothing like this in the metropolitan area where one person or one group can take and kind of help assimilate everything that we're trying to do. It's a very different item. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really happy because the accessibility is fantastic. The Parkway East, the Parkway West, Clarkson Olive. You have a whole bunch of ways to get there. You have the Parkway. So it's really something that's different. If you think about it, we control 117 acres. Downtown Clayton is 110 acres. That's not the residential. That's just downtown Clayton. So, and that doesn't include Shaw Park, or the high school, but it is the same size. So people have to think about it in those dimensions and how you look at it. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do.
Now, how is downtown Chesterfield going to be different from Clayton or downtown St.
Well,
Louis?
the nice thing is I have a whiteboard. I get to be the artist and I get to be the framer. So I like being both, and I prefer to be the artist. And I have a lot of guys on the team that are great framers for me. But the artist is this: I get a chance to start fresh. There's no parallel parking here. It's all 60-degree parking. We were able to make the road lanes 11 feet, not 10 feet. We're able to make the parking spaces 9 by 20s, not 8.5s. We're able to have sidewalks that are conducive to outdoor restaurants. We're able to do a lot of things that people weren't able to do because times have changed. I was talking this morning about AI and cameras. It's amazing how fast things are changing. But we've been able to do that with nobody else can do. So we're able to do things like the 3-acre park, the sidewalks through the park. So if we want to have an art fair or we want to have a farmer's market, we'll be able to plan for that. A lot of these things are afterthoughts. I'm happy that I have the chance to think about things now and be able to plan for those. I've gone again to the Domain, to Cherry Creek, to Atlanta to see what they're doing and how they're activating. That's what I call this downtown. You have to activate it. It's not, trying to react. I'm trying to be proactive on this and how to come up with a different way of looking at it. And again, we have walking trails. We have on the ring road, we have a 10-foot or a 12-foot path around it. It's 1.5 acres, so people don't have to leave. And if they want to walk down the amphitheater, we have a grand staircase at the city, and we're working on to get down there. You can get to the lakes. It's a 11-minute walk. We're going to have a lot of different things that nobody else. And I'm sure I'm going to miss something. I guarantee I'll miss something. And I'll say, well, that was stupid. But I'm trying to take that whiteboard and go from there.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about, I think one of the biggest questions is like the timeline, and people want it now, right? So talk me through what kind of planning this takes. When you have that blank canvas, what does that all look like? I know it's a lot, but can you?
Well, no, that's, as I said, I've been working on it 8 years. So the first thing I had to do is convince the city that this was the right thing to do. And of course, with everybody, you got 8 people in the council and 8 people that have their own opinion. And everybody looks at the internet and says, oh, I want this or I want that. But we've all come together. That took about 3 or 4 years. But it was also hard to put together the plan that I could get shown to everybody. So now, today, 8 years later, we've torn the mall down, and I'm proud that we have recycled 95% of all the materials in the mall. Nobody does that. I spent extra money doing that. I think it's the right thing to do. Make sure that our environment is protected. We've also gone back to MSD and made sure I have the right biodetention basins and all that. So that took a long time. So now we've torn the mall down. We're grading. We're putting in all the utilities, all the roads, all the street lighting, all the security cameras. And that's going to take until the spring of 2027. At that time, we'll be in position to start selling different parcels for development. Well, we're starting now, but they really can't start until 2027. And also, we're going to have the park built. We're not going to activate the park until 2029 because nobody's going to be there. And so really, 2029 will be the day that everything will kind of open. There's the Macy's building, which is 275,000 square feet. We're going to renovate that. 2 floors of office. The first floor will be retail. And we'll have about 150,000 square feet of retail around the park. Probably 8 to 10 restaurants. And they'll be local. I'm not interested in putting in chains. We have 3 or 4 local people now that are interested. We have a hotel that would be the high end like the Ritz-Carlton. It's a Marriott brand that wants to come in. We have a condo developer. We have an over 55 lifestyle housing. And so we have a lot of different things we're doing. So everybody will see the finished product probably in the spring. They can see, now you can really see it. The thing that's going to take the longest is the grading is about, I'd say 80–85% done. But you know, we have to put the concrete in. You can only pour concrete during the summer and the fall. You know, the utilities take time because we have a massive $7 million, $8 million of just utilities to put in. And we got to make sure we have the internet fiber. We have to have this. We have to make sure that we're developing it so that we have the capacity to put 2,200 units in, 1 million square feet of office, 250,000 square feet of retail. And the retail I talk about is specialty retail. This isn't, I had an opportunity to put an Aldi grocery store in. I don't think that's really what I was thinking about. Nothing against Aldi. You know, they're in some of our centers. I like them. But I need to have the right mix for this.
So what is the right mix? Can you explain like what you mean by that?
A higher end, you know, unique to St. Louis. What's higher end mean? I don't know. Whatever higher end means to you and me is probably totally different. But I'm not looking to put a Subway in there. I'm looking for higher end, nice restaurants. But I do want to have some, you know, local sandwich shops and things like that. And, you know, I want to have a jewelry store. I want to have, you know, Lululemon's expressed an interest. You know, I want to have a great nail salon. You know, things that people want to go to, more service type than that. And so those are the kinds of things, you know, we're looking for. We're looking for a store like Trader Joe's. Okay, you know, things like that. And so we can serve the neighborhood, you know, but people don't realize that at this intersection, if you go 22 minutes, there's over 1 million people that can get to this intersection within 22 minutes. 1 million people. That's a lot of people. Yeah. So in 22 minutes, you know, sounds like people in St. Louis, that's a long, well, you know, in St. Louis, that's not that long in other places. Yeah. So I live in Clayton, Missouri, and it takes me 15.5 minutes to get from my house to the mall. I still call it the mall until downtown happens. But that's, you know, and we're going to move our offices out there. I believe in this. So I believe that this is going to be the central point of the region.
Awesome. So 10 years from now, I know it's hard. We live every single day in the moment, right? But 10 years from now, when you look at downtown Chesterfield, you see it, what do you want to feel and what do you want other people to feel? What's that downtown Chesterfield experience?
It's no different than the Commons. It opened in 1999. It's still relevant today. I'm proud of that because people don't realize behind the Commons, there is a 200-foot bluff. I call it a hill, bluff hill. And my facades are 50 foot high. If I would have built the normal 25 or 30, people would look at it and go like that. It's still relevant. The traffic is relevant. The look is relevant. And we're going to build it so that it's relevant. So 10 years from now, I'm going to be out there like I do in the Commons and say, wow, that was, you know, it's like the district. Well, that was, you know, kind of stupid, but okay, you did okay. And so that's the kind of stuff I like to think about. And I think that people will say, how did he think about that? How did he come up with that? I don't know how I came up with it. You know, I don't know words of a song. I couldn't tell you the Pledge of Allegiance, but I can tell you who wrote it. I can tell you when it was written, you know, and that's just who I am. You know, it's like I always tell people, you know, the Beatles, how could they do that? How could they come up with all that stuff? You know, so this is my legacy. You know, it started with the Commons. It went to the district. So I have that three-legged stool now. Again, one of my favorite things to talk about. And so that's really what I want. I want people to say, he really thought about everything and it looks good. Yeah. You know, and I'm not one, this isn't about, everybody says, oh, he's going to make a lot of money. Okay, great. I'm going to make a lot of money. It's about leaving a legacy no different than what Lou Sachs started trying to do and other people in this town have done to build a legacy.
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the greatest things that I have learned from you is to, like I just said, take it day by day. I know that was a tough question to look so far ahead, but I really do think that when this is all done, you'll be able to sit on that stool, the three-legged stool, and feel pretty pretty
Oh,
good and proud about
oh,
this.
I
So,
will. No question. I'll feel proud, and I'm not in a hurry. Everybody says, "Are you in a hurry?" No, I'm all right. I have 28 years left to work. You know, I work every day that ends in Y, so I'm good there. And I'm really looking forward. And people said to me the other day, I took someone out there, I forget when it was, and we're driving down Clarkson. They said, "We can actually see the Macy's now. We can actually see this. How did you know this?" I don't know how I know that, but I saw it. And, you know, it's about picking the right materials, the right landscaping, the right lighting. It's all nuances that most people don't think about, or they'll hire it out, and all they're worried about is making money. This is not, I love to make money, don't get me wrong, but this is more about doing the right thing, because I live in St. Louis. I could live anywhere in the United States, and I prefer to live in St. Louis.
yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that's going to do it for this first episode of Beyond the Blueprint. Michael, thank you so much for just sitting down with me. I hope that when we meet again, there's a little bit more that we can discuss about the development that's going on. But you are a great visionary, and I say we as in just St. Louis, are really excited for this. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Great to be with you.